Hello and welcome to my review of the Dragon Momoko Launcher Strike Gundam. This is a third-party kit. It uses the Bandai Master Grade Strike Remasters frame with some artistic liberties taken on the outer armor. So right out of the box, you're going to get the Dragon Momoko Strike Gundam, the weapon combo pod, the backpack attachment, the Agni Hyper Impulse Cannon, the 2 armor Schneiders, an action-based attachment, and a spare piece for the backpack. You'll also get a sheet of foil stickers and a large sheet of water slide decals. These include decals for the Strike, the Sword Strike, and the Launcher Strike. So here is the Dragon Momoko Strike Gundam. I have to say, it looks pretty good. They really upped the details and extended the legs a bit. It gives me a bit of the perfect grade Strike vibe. Here's a quick spin around. So in terms of articulation, the head has a decent range of mobility and rotation. The chest has a very tiny ab crunch, but some good side-to-side movement. You can also rotate it a little bit, but the side skirts are going to constrict it. These parts can also slide out to show off the cockpit, but the plastic is so tight that I'm not even going to bother. So the entire shoulder joint can move up like so, and fold out to get the hand to reach across the chest, like so. The entire shoulder can also move up, like so, and this piece up here can also slide up. For the arm rotation, it can rotate at the shoulder 360 degrees. The arm bend is going to be a solid 180 degree bend. On the back here is going to be a hole, but you won't be using it on this kit. Now the hands here are a real disaster. Dragon Momoko attempts to replicate Bandai's emotion manipulators, basically fully articulated PG-style fingers, but on the MG scale. But seeing how Bandai's don't work well, it's no surprise that they're terrible here. They're seriously fragile, and I'm scared to even pose them. The biggest kicker is that the kit doesn't even come with alternative fixed posed fingers. If you accidentally break these, that's it. So onto the waist, the front skirt can flip up like so. The side skirt can open up to house the armor Schneiders, and they can also flip up like so. The back skirts are going to be connected and they can flip around just a tiny bit. Here on the back is going to be a hole to attach on the action-based connector. And finally, onto the waist, you can see that it includes the waist mechanism that allows the legs to swing around, but the plastic pieces are so tight that you really can't make use of it. You're going to get a pretty decent angle kick back, a 90 degree kick forward, and for the bend, you're going to get a solid 180 degree bend with a nice sliding knee armor, courtesy of Bandai's frame. Something I have noticed is that when you bend it back, this knee armor here needs to be pushed back into place. And finally, you can pull off splits, no problem. So onto the lower leg, the ankle here has a decent range of side to side and front to back motion. The toes can also point up and down a decent degree. So onto weapons, here is the combo weapon pod. There's a lot of nice color apps, and I especially like the detail on the Gatling gun and on the ammo belt back here. The 2 flaps on the side have a lot of movement. They feel a bit loose, but they can hold a position. So the backpack mount is pretty ordinary, just some gray and white parts with a singular clear part there. The giant arm here is going to be pretty loose. It's also pretty mobile, but I'm not sure it's going to be entirely up to the task of holding up giant Agni gun. On the side here is going to be a piece that you can replace with this, and this should expose a hole to plug in the Sword Strike pack. And here's one of the tiny armor Schneider knives, nothing too noteworthy, they can deploy like so. Finally, here is Strike's big gun. It's absolutely massive, much harder than the Gundam itself. The gun is very nicely detailed with some yellow trims, a clear piece for the scope, and a red detail piece here at the barrel. It has 2 handles, the main one can slide back and forth, and the sub one can tilt back and forth ever so slightly. In terms of other moving parts, the barrel can extend, and this will allow these 2 pieces to pop up, I guess for a sort of crossbow pattern. The back 2 pieces here can also deploy to show off some yellow panels. The cannon will attach onto the backpack mount pretty easily. And the backpack mount is just going to plug into the back of the Strike Gundam. So to attach the weapon combo pod, you want to remove this part of the shoulder armor, and then it will just slide nicely onto the top of the shoulder. So here is the completed Dragon Momoko Launcher Strike. The cannon is actually a bit too long, so you'll need to either angle it or have the strike stand on its tippy toes. The Launcher Strike is my least favorite form of the strike, and I don't think this kit will change my opinion. That being said, the detail is very well done. Here's a quick spin around. In terms of posing, you can swing the cannon around under the armpit, then plug the peg on the hand into the primary handle. Again, the fingers are a bit brittle, but you can carefully wrap them around the handle. And despite the trouble, he does look pretty good. And of course, you can open up the front and back panels for a full burst effect. I have to say, it looks pretty cool, and is probably my favorite part of the kit. So thanks to the good shoulder movement, he is able to swing his arm around and grab the other handle, but the hands themselves can't really pose well, so it looks a bit awkward. It also doesn't help that the cannon is super heavy and the arm here is super weak and loose. It doesn't really do a great job of holding the cannon up. You need to employ a trick. In this case, I'm actually resting the cannon against the giant side skirt and a bit of the leg. He does look pretty good in a kneeling pose though. I have to say, this is probably my favorite pose so far. So now for my final thoughts on the Dragon Momoko Launcher Strike. In terms of cons, this is a third party or bootleg kit. The plastic quality can't match Bandai's, and it has a decent amount of fitting issues. I had to glue a few parts into place because they didn't fit properly. The fingers in particular are just a disaster. I had these fingers break off the runners on my Dragon Momoko Blue Frame 3rd, but whereas that kit had spare fixed hands, this one only includes these. The biggest con for me has to be the posing of the Agni Hyper Impulse Cannon. Since that is the main draw of the Launcher Strike, I expect it to be great, but the connection here on the arm is terrible, it's super weak. The arm joint and the wrist joint simply aren't up to the task of holding it properly, and overall, getting it to pose is pretty difficult. And while you can hold a few poses, getting it there is really painful, annoying, and frustrating. Moving on to the pros, I think the rest of the kit is very solid. It looks pretty good, and the mobile suit itself poses very well. The most of that should be credited to Bandai's frame. The model also seems to take after the PG Strike, both in terms of details and proportions, which I really like since I'm a big fan of the PG Strike. The weapons also look very good. I'm a big fan of the gimmicks they added to the Agni Hyper Impulse Cannon. Seeing how it might be both difficult and costly to get a Bandai Master Grade Launcher Strike, I think this is a pretty good alternative. Overall, I think it's a solid kit, with just the bad hands being a deal breaker for me. I think if you're a massive fan of the Launcher Strike, go for it. Everyone else, maybe just stick to the Bandai MG L-Strike version remastered. So this has been my look at the Dragon Momoko Launcher Strike. Please comment, like, and subscribe. I'll see you next time.